So today I'm joined by Lincolnshire-based boxer and content creator Brandon Jensen. Thank you for joining me, mate. To start off, can you kind of describe your boxing style? Like from what I've been watching, you seem quite aggressive, but how would you describe it?
I would say my boxing style is, I don't want to give too much away about how I like to fight. I'm one of them guys that I do like to go toe to toe. I do feel like if I'm head on your chest, I'm giving you problems. But I can also box on the back foot. I can box out southpaw or orthodox. So um, it depends on the opponent on how I adapt my style, really. But again, I do like to have a firefight at times and go toe to toe with people. So yeah.
Yeah, perfect. What initially actually got you into boxing? Was it someone or something?
So I started boxing when I did my college course. It was all based, so I did a sports course in college, and a lot of what I was basing my course around was boxing. So that was my main focus at the time, but that was more coaching and stuff like that. And then I fell into boxing a little bit more, as in I started to sort of train. I was enjoying training and stuff like that, but never really took anything too seriously up until about 2 years ago, which is when I had my first bout, and unfortunately losing that and stuff like that. But I feel like I was up against an opponent that was completely mismatched against my ability at the time. So I took sort of a few months out after that, and then over the sort of the past year or so, I've been really honing in on my skills, and sort of putting more rounds in the gym and working with people, to improve my ability in the ring.
Perfect. I was going to ask about that first bout. Like I've seen that you fought with ultra white collar boxing. Like how was that
So
experience?
So
Can
the
you hear me?
experience, yeah, I can hear you. Yeah, not a problem. So the experience, I'd say, it was a good experience the first time round, but it was kind of disheartening, because I was put in there against a guy that had like 10 kg weight advantage on me. He had previous like a few years kickboxing experience and stuff like that, and to just go up against a bigger guy on the night, and he was fighting dirty. He was like holding my head down, pulling my guard, like holding my arm in, and whilst my arms held in, he's throwing shots over the top, and the ref wasn't really doing anything about it. So it was kind of like a really long night for me that night. But then I got a call up in December last year, at the very beginning of December,
Right.
on 3 days' notice. I had one of the promoters for the ultra white collar boxing saying, "Look, mate, I've got a fight for you if you're willing to take it." Again, the guy had about 7 kg, 8 kg weight advantage on me, but I was like, "I'm game. I need to get in the ring before the end of the year." I've
Yeah.
been talking all year about getting in the ring. I was scheduled to fight in November, and then that event just never ended up happening. So it was a bit disheartening for that. So I said I need to get myself in the ring before the end of the year, in which I did, and I fought on 3 days' notice. I've said multiple times, and multiple people have said to me, watching it back, like two, maybe three times myself, I felt like I won the second and the third round. And
Right.
then coming back from that, everybody else's reaction was sort of the same. The guy's gas tank went in the second, and
Right.
I sort of just said, my fitness wasn't there. As you can imagine, I'd been
Mm.
doing no training for 12 weeks, sat on the sofa, and I get called up on a fight on 3 days' notice. So my fitness wasn't there for a 3 round fight myself. But I
Mm.
was still pushing the pace in the second, still pushing the pace in the third, landing more shots, landing the more effective, cleaner shots. I nearly dropped him in the first 15 seconds of the second round, had him wobbled. But due to my stamina and stuff like that, I just couldn't get the finish. Um, so somewhat I can feel like it's a thing of they didn't give me the decision because I did step in on 3 days' notice. So
Yeah. Yeah. Well, obviously, I think the most important thing is kind of that experience, like you were saying. You've not hidden the fact that you'd like to fight with Misfits, obviously, and you was at Misfits 12 in Leeds recently. Can you kind of tell me how that experience was sitting ringside and obviously being in and around it all?
so I don't want to say too much because I wasn't actually supposed to be sat ringside.
Right.
Um, but originally I was working media for the event and stuff like that, but I ended up talking to a few people and actually ended up getting myself sat at ringside, alongside HS Tiki Toki's team. So as you can see from a few of my clips, when it was Ed Matthews' fight, I was actually sat with his corner team. So
Brilliant.
it's like kind of crazy for it to be like my first event, and there was so many people I ended up speaking to. I ended up Me and a few people ended up actually hitting up a training session when I arrived in Leeds on Saturday morning. So I got some rounds in with the likes of Idris Virgo and stuff like that as well,
Yeah,
which was definitely a learning experience. And let me tell you, I can see why they call that man the body breaker, because I'm not afraid to say it. The guy did drop me with a body shot. He's just
yeah,
talented, man. But
yeah,
it's one of them where I can say the first time I ever got dropped is by a guy that's a 13-0 professional. So I can't really say too much and say, oh, well, I got dropped. Like, nobody can look too deep into that because the experience level is completely different. Idris Virgo has dropped some really good professional fighters. So it's one
yeah.
of them things, but I don't mind too much for that. But there was a few other people that I ended up sparring with, got a few good rounds in, and then obviously ended up going to the event. But yeah, like I said, there's just a few people that I knew at the event. I was there to support Most Wanted, and I was also there to support my guy DTG, who ended up getting his victory on that night. And I have spoke to him since the fight, and he's coming out to watch my next fight. So that's interesting, yeah.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that sparring and stuff. Like, what's Idris Virgo like in person? And like, how did this event? How did the spar actually get set up? How did you get in? How did it all happen?
So I messaged Idris wanted to go on a run on fight day, and I said, oh well, a lot of us are actually thinking about going to a gym, getting a few rounds in. And he was like, yeah, I'm down, let's go and let's do it. And he actually turned up and stuff like that. We had a few people watching and stuff like that. But bro, hitting him to the body is like hitting a brick wall. The guy,
Really?
you can hit him with a solid shot, he will walk forward. The guy is chiseled, like,
Yeah.
and you can see why KSI and stuff like that is training with him, because like he is class. Like, just watching him move around with a few of the other people that are more experienced with myself, and just even learning from that, it was a good experience.
Yeah, I'm gonna say in the footage you can see he's built in it. Um,
Yeah.
I was gonna ask about like you mentioned most wanted. He obviously didn't get the result that he was wanting. Obviously, you've met him 1-to-1. I was wanting to know like, can you kind of describe his character, and do you think he'll be back in the ring to kind of prove a point to people?
I think Most Wanted, he's got a massive stigma online of being this like egotistical guy and stuff like that. But in
Mm,
person, he's actually a very relaxed guy. He's very
yeah,
calm, very sort of easy to talk to, and stuff like that. But he carries a good aura around himself, and he's a good guy at the end of the day. Like, I got a lot of respect to him, and people got to respect the fact that he stepped up it to the ring and fought a guy that was 7-0, white
yeah,
collar, two-weight champion in his debut. So like anybody like from the outside looking in has to respect that. So he got a lot of respect from me that night, 100%. And I look forward to what he does next. I think he will be in the ring, maybe in the next few months, from what I've heard.
yeah. I was gonna say like I'd have to agree. I met him for a few minutes, and like he was the nicest bloke ever. And as well, like I said, Joey Knight, he was a really tough opponent, wasn't it? And I think you could tell in the ring the experience that Joey had. So yeah, I think he should definitely come back. About DTG
100%.
as well. Like obviously you said that you close to DTG. How good was he on the night, and like how much potential do you think he has?
I think in the heavyweight division,
Mm,
DTG has the most potential in that division, 100%. That double jab right hand was
yeah,
crazy.
it's beautiful.
Like, it was one of the cleanest double jab right hands I've seen in crossover boxing, and that is just fact. But he's also like such a humble guy, so easy to talk to. And like I message him on the daily and stuff like that, and like I said, he's coming out to support my fight. But yeah, he's a great guy, man. 100%.
Yeah, and then about that fight, obviously you announced the fight with Adam Smith last night, which then got called off an hour later due to him injuring himself. And I saw that you've now announced that you're fighting Louis Bayliss. Can you kind of talk to me about him? Like, what do you know about him, and how are you feeling?
I'll be honest, I don't know anything about Louis Bayliss. All I
Right.
know is that, as far as I'm aware, this is his debut.
Mm,
Um, so take with that what you will. I feel like that works into my corner at a little bit more advantage. I know how to stay relaxed and calm in the ring now, but I also know how to take a defeat if I was to take a defeat in my next fight anyway. Like, win, lose, or draw, both me and Louis are stepping up and fighting on 2 weeks' notice for a title. Louis Bayliss
yeah.
already had another opponent in Afro Samurai, which not a lot of people realized when I announced my fight, but people are starting to realize it a bit more now, saying, isn't this guy fighting Afro? But a bit of a mix around, and now me and Louis are fighting for the title. So I'm looking forward to it. Like I said, I don't know really anything about his height. I just know we're meeting at super middleweight. But yeah, I'm interested to see how he comes out in the first round, and how I adapt to that. I'd say again, fighting on short notice, I can publicly say it. My cardio isn't the greatest, but I feel like I'm fit enough to do at a minimum of a 3 round fight, 100%.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm assuming like you've done a bit of training beforehand, like you've been in the kind of little camp for obviously the Adam Smith fight, which then got called off. Like, how long have you been training for recently?
So I'd say I've been in camp maybe about 2 weeks.
Right.
Um, in and out of camp a little bit, obviously due to a few mix arounds and stuff like that. Um, but mainly, obviously, being focused on a guy like Adam, who had about 8 or 10 fight experience. He held the title and stuff like that. I had a bit of footage to watch and stuff like that. So it's completely adapting to. I know it's easy to say that. I know how Louis is going to come out because everybody that makes their debut comes out in the same way. They come out in the first round, they start fast. They don't expect it to be such a gassing experience, even being in front of a crowd, especially fighting in front of 3,000 people plus for his first fight. So it's going to be interesting, but I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. I was gonna say it's back to Misfits. Like you tweeted how you told Mams that he was gonna work for your opportunity on Misfits. Can you kind of talk me through how that conversation went with him and like how far off could your Misfits debut be?
I feel like it's a massive potential to make my Misfits debut this year, but I do
Yeah.
have to work hard for it. Like I can't be just like every one of these other guys on Twitter that says, "Mams, let me fight on Misfits," or every other guy that
Mm.
DMs Mam saying, "Let me fight this guy on Misfits." Like I've got to make a storyline, and hence why I'm fighting on this promotion in the O2 Indigo for my third fight, and also my influencer boxing debut. I'm
Yeah.
fighting in the O2 Arena, which is nuts.
Yeah.
So I'm building that storyline. I know a lot of people are turning out to this event in the O2 Indigo. We've got the likes of DTG going to be there. We've got Mams watching online. We've got L Brook in attendance, AJ Bunker in attendance. Most Wanted going to be in attendance. We've got a lot of fighters from the last event that are going to be in attendance. Also Joey Knight. So we're also going to see we're also going to see Joey Knight and Most Wanted meet each other again at this event. So
Yeah.
it's definitely going to be an interesting event, and it's going to be interesting to see where my opportunities come from the back of this. All well be it I have a good performance, I could see me being back in the ring maybe beginning of March, maybe beginning of April at the latest.
Yeah. Perfect. Well, it's definitely a spectacle to watch, isn't it? And then obviously it's obviously hypothetical, but let's say you've had a few fights with Misfits. Is there someone in mind that you'd like to almost obviously not call out, but like is there a fight that you have that you almost like dream of having?
It, it's so easy to say like I want to fight this guy and that guy. Personally, a lot of the guys I actually respect on Misfits, and it's like
Mm.
I'm not calling them out as in like I think you're shit and I can beat you. I'm calling them out as
Yeah.
in like I respect you a lot. I know your skill craft and I know how hard you're working at this. So it's more of a respectful call out than anything. But you could say the likes of Anthony Taylor,
Mm.
Deji, um, and stuff like that. But I also just want to be in entertaining fights, man. Like
Yeah.
win, lose or draw, influencer boxing is all about entertainment. I think interesting fights for me to come into Misfits. I love Adam Brooks. Me and him spoke at the O12 event. Really cool guy. But me and him would be a firefight, entertaining fight. Also
Yeah.
Halal Ham.
Yeah.
I'd say the respect isn't there for as much as Halal Ham as it is for Adam. I know Halal Ham's had a lot of experience, so not a lot of people know that Halal Ham's actually had 12 amateur fights, and he's also had his fights on Misfits as well as the other influencer boxing fights that he's had. So the guy's on about 18 to 20 fights.
Yeah.
So, and personally for me, he's not the greatest, but
Yeah.
experience wise, I feel like making a Misfits boxing debut, me and a Halal Ham makes sense. We're both around the same height. He should be boxing at the weight I should be boxing at. And experience wise, we should be a good matchup. We should be able to go toe to toe with each other. From what I've seen recently, Halalham's quite explosive. So we both hold power, and it wouldn't. A lot of people can look back and go, Halalham versus Ginty was dead. Like, it was boring. But you've got to think Halalham is 5'6", fighting a guy that's 6'2".
Yeah.
And any fight, it's so hard to find range. I've sparred guys that are 140 kilos and 6'5" and stuff like that. You can't get on the inside. You're getting your head jabbed, pinged about everywhere. So me and Halalham make for a good fight. I put out a poll yesterday actually saying, who would you like to see me put my Misfits boxing debut against? And I had the likes of Brandon Buckingham, Ice Poseidon, Halalham. Halalham's the winner of that. So again, people want to see me and him fight, and there is an interest there. And I have called him out on previous times, and he's gone, well, get your clout up. I'm too clouted for you in this and that. But like, is he too clouted? Because I feel like it's definitely a realistic fight. Like, you wouldn't put Halal Ham in there against a Deji or a Salt Pappy, just as you wouldn't put me in there with a Deji or a Salt Pappy or a King Kenny or anything like that. So you have to build up. I have to build up my name, 100%. But Halal Ham's not going to build up his name any more than where he is now. And I feel like on the trajectory I could be on this year, I could surpass him within the next 6 months. So,
I mean, I'd agree. What I'd say, like, a lot of people maybe didn't know Halal Ham before his Misfits opportunity. So same with you. Once you've had your opportunity, maybe you propel your name, like you say, to that same level. I think, like,
you've just got to think about the people that made their debut last weekend. Like Miles Raksu made his debut, Joey Knight made his debut, Most Wanted made his debut, and these are all guys that are pulling in now hundreds of thousands of views across other platforms just because of their Misfits debut. I heard Joey Knight talking the other day about he's seen that people have been rewatching his fight across different platforms, and it's across different platforms now. It's got like 6+ million interactions with it. So there's people watching, and there's always opportunity to build names. There's people that have come from being absolutely nothing in this scene to going right to the very top. You've got to pay example of Slim or Salt Pappy. They came from right from the very bottom of fighting on these small shows, not being the biggest creators, to fighting on the prime card. So there's definitely opportunity to build from where I am now, and it all starts with content creation, and it all starts with putting my face in and around the scene. Hence why I was at the O12 event, because there's nothing better than being present at these things. So
yeah, I have to agree that obviously I think with Misfits, like, the reason Salt Pappy and Slim have been so successful is because they've made that character, like you say, in the storyline. So I think, like, some fighters obviously do kind of turn up just kind of maybe for the money, but more just kind of train, get the win, and move on. So I think, like you say, like, I think the best thing you can do is kind of make that content alongside the training, obviously, and then you can only really propel your name from there, can't you?
And as well, fight week is the biggest opportunity to make a name for yourself. So at the weigh-ins, I'd give massive props for Fez Batista.
You're good on it.
This fight week, he was entertaining. He was loud. He was making himself aware, and he got a lot of people from Misfits in the higher ups. He got a lot of people's respect for coming in and bringing something different. So you can't just turn up to these fight weeks and go, I'm gonna do my talking in the ring, or I've trained for this, so I feel like I'm gonna win. It's no, you've got to be entertaining. You've got to be different, and you've got to bring something different to what somebody else has already brought to the game.
Yeah, I have to agree. I was really impressed with Fez. Like I said, I hadn't really heard of him coming up to this, and then now, like you say, like, everyone was talking about like the Transformers and stuff there. Like, he did brilliant this week. To close it off, obviously we've talked about influencer boxing. I know it's hypothetical, but let's say we get the dream matchup of Jake Paul versus KSI. Who are you backing? Who would you say?
I would back KSI. I'd say KSI would win that, but I'm not one of these delusional people that says it's my camera cut out. Yeah, no, I'm not one of these delusional peoples that say KSI wins and there's no way Jake Paul wins. Like, I think the ball lies in either court. I feel like the hunger and the determination for both men are there. Both men want the win. Both men want the fight. So hypothetically, both Jake and KSI can win. But that's why it's such a entertaining fight, and that's the fight. That's why it's the fight that we keep asking for, because
Yeah.
it is one of them that can go either way. But I have to back my man from Britain, and that would be KSI.